So that's what it did. The picker wheel came up with Love and Monsters. And if you think that was the most exciting day of my life, wait till you hear the rest. Oh boy. Oh no, I don't have a theme song to make this parody work. So there I was, looking at that selection, thinking, this is what I have to do now. I have to review Love and Monsters, an episode most people hate, that I actually like. A story where I have to go, no, this story's pretty good, just don't be mean, it's only a little bad. This is gonna be fun. Love and Monsters is a story that was written by Russell T. Davies, and I'm sure that fact would not surprise people at this point given both his reputation and this episode's reputation. It's a story that follows a random citizen of the Doctor Who world as he experiences things that have been happening throughout the previous series. This story came towards the end of Series 2 of the 2005 return of Doctor Who, and it takes great advantage of this era of the show's tendency to have plots that are more likely to be noticed by the public at large. The classic era, of course, had plots that were seen by the public, but they were usually far less unavoidable than, I don't know, just pulling a random example here, a spaceship crashing into Big Ben. Which actually did happen in the 4th episode of the first series. The classic era's attitude of letting more of the story, it really just allowed more of the stories to be believable to exist in our reality, with these kind of events like the Big Ben scenario and phones existing, make it a little bit less believable for that, but it does make room for a story like this, where an average citizen is noticing aliens. And also, since this era also wanted to have one episode a season feature a Doctor-lite episode, where the Doctor and or companion were in the episode for the minimum amount of time, this had a great opportunity for someone else to lead the show for an episode. The point of view character, Elton, has a very interesting story. He saw the Doctor when he was young, and then in the last year, crazy things started happening, and he wants to learn more about it, and he manages to find other people who have also noticed things going on weird and learned about the Doctor, and they just sort of form a fan club to learn more about him and talk about him. This story is really just a metaphor for fandom in all of its aspects. The group Linda that is formed honestly just feels like a fan convention. You have all of them making presentations or art about the Doctor, and you see these people bond over their shared fascination with the Doctor, and it's beautiful. And I also love how Elton makes the acronym for Linda, which is London Investigation Detective Agency. My favorite bit is the N. It's perfect. It also has this kind of subtle, slightly brushed past anti-toxic masculinity aspect to it, where you have two different men choosing to associate themselves with a group called Linda, which is great. The members of Linda are Elton, our point of view character, Ursula, who is Elton's love interest, and you see them support each other and have crushes on each other throughout the episode, and it's genuinely great. They are so sweet, and it really helps hold the episode together. Then there is also Bridget and Mr. Skinner. Yes, even within the episode, they call him Mr. Skinner. And they also have a flirting thing going, Bridget and Mr. Skinner, that is. It doesn't have as much attention drawn to it as Elton and Ursula's story, but it is there, and it is important. And then there's Bliss, who within the friend group and within the story isn't necessarily treated as a fifth wheel, but within my summation of the group's members of Linda, she is. I'm so sorry, Bliss. What is really great is seeing them just become a group of friends who aren't even focused on the Doctor at a certain point. This is just a friend group that's brought together by the Doctor, but they're not defined by the Doctor. They make food. Mr. Skinner reads the novel he's been writing, and they even bond over their tragedies. And then they do what every friend group does in high school, I think. I don't know. I was never part of these groups. What Linda does is they become a band, and it's really good. Are they great musicians? No. but they're together and they're passionate and they're having fun. I love it. This friend thing, if it lasted longer in the episode, I would like this episode even more than I already do. And then, unfortunately, Toxic Fandom shows up, aka Victor Kennedy, who is played by Peter Kay, who I know for a great bit of stand-up that I've seen circulating online a bit, where he's talking about misheard lyrics to popular songs. I would play a clip, but I'm scared of using Doctor Who clips and downright terrified of playing unlicensed music. So I will link to that in the description, so check that out if you haven't seen it. But back to the fandom metaphor. Victor represents the toxic parts of fandom, and this is true of not just Doctor Who, but any fandom, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to stick to Doctor Who because, yeah. And what Victor does is he turns Linda from a fun thing of trying to figure out the Doctor to just being friends, and he turns it into dedicated, focused work, where he's giving them an assignment and literally giving them homework. And he does all of this within a single day. If I'm being realistic, it's within an hour. Like, it's honestly within screen time of his arrival there. Like, there's very little time that they removed for the sake of the episode. And the next time they go back to that meeting room, it's been turned into a classroom where Victor is the teacher, and he's here looking at them whose desks are pointed to him. It feels more sinister. Like, I did good in school, but this was sinister and scary. And Elton in this moment does represent how casual fans can be drawn into the toxic areas of fandom by going, well, yeah, we've always wanted to find the Doctor. Sure, it's homework now, but the goal has always kind of been finding out about the Doctor. However, Ursula correctly points out that it wasn't work before. But then it goes much further. Victor teaches them how to track down people and how to infiltrate their trust and get information about them. Like, this is actual spy work, which, again, it really just comes across like they're stalkers at this point, which... Urgh. And then we see Elton track down Jackie, the Doctor's companion's mother, and become friends with her, and even gets to the point where she's flirting with him and very clearly wanting to sleep with him. And Elton is seemingly willing to do that just to get information about the Doctor. Toxic fandom has corrupted him to the point that he is willing to do despicable, just really awful bad things entirely for self-centered reasons. This is the ultimate of just using people for their information in the absolute most horrifying way. The only good thing I can say about this is he does change his mind, and he does seemingly want to genuinely just be Jackie's friend and be there for her and help her, and completely forget about finding the Doctor. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter, because Jackie figures out what he was doing, and Jackie is rightfully angry. When he returns to the group, Elton rightfully calls Victor out on his crap and tries to get everyone to quit the group, and he succeeds, and they leave, and they all lived happily ever after. If only. I've skipped over one piece of this story, and that is that Victor is regularly asking one of the members of the group to stay behind while everyone else leaves, and after that, they're not seen again. When Elton does his big "we're all leaving" thing, it's only him, Ursula, and Mr. Skinner left. And Victor decides to use Mr. Skinner's crush on Bridget to get him to stay behind by offering to give him her new phone number that he happened to get. And then is when the true tragedy happens. Elton and Ursula have left, and they've finally also moved from flirting to agreeing to go on a date, which is beautiful. I love them together. This is so good, so sweet, it can't possibly last in a story like this. And we learn why. She forgot her phone. So they have to go back, which they're like, I guess we'll just look a little stupid. Whatever. But when they return, they learn what happened to everyone. Victor is an Abzorbaloff. He absorbs people into his body to gain their experiences, and their face goes onto his body. And his goal is to absorb the Doctor into himself to gain the Doctor's experiences. In the meantime, he absorbs Ursula. Now, people who hate this episode, we will get to the problems with this later, but for now, just stick with the metaphor. In terms of the toxic fandom metaphor, Victor is just a self-focused, self-important person who exists just to collect things for himself and only himself. Eventually, the Doctor and Rose show up, and the Doctor is able to explain to the absorbed people that they can hurt Victor, which they do, allowing Elton to destroy this cane that's like holding Victor into one shape. It's honestly, it's stupid, but it's not worth going into. But Victor is destroyed. He dissolves into the ground. And you see Ursula, like, vaguely poke up out of the brick at the bottom saying, "Goodbye, Elton." And it's honestly really tragic. It's absolutely the deserved ending of the story. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. But narratively, it's satisfying. Okay, on to the problems with the episode. That was a lot of praise I just had for this story, but I'll say, yeah, it's not perfect. There are some questionable aspects. Number 1, good comedy that doesn't fit the tone isn't good comedy. At the beginning of the episode, we see Elton come across the Doctor and Rose as they are engaged in a Scooby-Doo parody. It's just the Doctor, Rose, and an alien running through doors. It's really well done, and I enjoy it. But there's just too much of an emotional swing between that and the other emotions present in the episode. I'll just say it was well done, but it wasn't well placed. Number 2, framing devices should matter. So I skipped over the very beginning of the story, which actually manages to do the jump into the middle of the story before returning to the beginning of the story thing that happens sometimes in TV episodes, but here it actually works a bit, mostly. The reason it works here is this is done to shift the point of view character from the Doctor to the guest character who's our guest host for the episode. It's rather than how it's normally done on TV, which is to shock the viewer into thinking, oh no, something awful is happening, only to later learn, haha, we tricked you. I know I'm in the criticism phase of the review, but this type of thing is just done well so rarely I had to praise it here. But after that intro, I have to ask, what is this framing device used for? It works well at the beginning to shift the focus, but the framing device itself is weird. Elton is making a YouTube video to do the narrative jumping around that's here, but, sure. It allows Elton to reflect on moments that we're looking at, but that's not really necessary. In a well-done script where you can follow the emotional narrative of the story, you don't need a narrator explaining what they're feeling and thinking. It's just kind of unnecessary here. Number 3, the Abzorbaloff. Now, the Abzorbaloff does get a lot of flack. Some of it is deserved, I will say, and some of it is not. Now, I'll say, if you didn't know that this character was designed by a child, it would be really easy to just write off the entire character design. The design, it does look very bizarre, and some elements are very bad. But I'll just give it a little bit of a pass because it was made by a kid. But I will say, narratively, the powers are actually pretty good. It's actually really good and creepy, if I'm being honest. Absorbing human beings in himself purely to gain the experiences that all of them had, it's genuinely sinister. And it also automatically ties in with what the toxic fan is trying to do. Just absorb knowledge for the sake of it, to have the knowledge and lord it over other people and prevent other people from having it. It's sort of like how there are stories I've seen online about private collectors who are hoarding onto missing episodes of Doctor Who purely so they can have it and be the only one to have that episode. But I will say, the choice to have Ursula still be wearing her glasses when she's absorbed into the Abzorbaloff makes sense from the perspective of having her be recognizable while she's caked in makeup. But the idea of pieces of plastic sticking out of this guy's stomach is just... it's so weird. And yes, the faces being on him is weird and gross. But I'll be honest, for me, it's the hair. The hair gets too weird for me. Why does it need to go that far down his back? And in a mohawk. It's just so bad. I'm sorry. Number 4. The ending. I alluded to this earlier, but really, Ursula should have stayed dead. The Doctor brings her back as a slab. The Abzorbaloff dissolves over some, outdoor tile, and the Doctor is able to bring the last person who was absorbed, Ursula, back. But it's just her face on a tile. And this being Ursula's life, the more I think about it, it's genuinely horrifying. Elton has to have a job to pay for the apartment and to live in the world. Ursula? She's a slab. She can't go anywhere or do anything. She has to just sit around all day waiting for Elton to come back home from a full day of work. Then they get a few hours together, and then Elton has to go to bed and sleep. That's a horrible life for her. I genuinely feel bad for her, and it's not like Elton can just take her anywhere. I mean, can you imagine just going around carrying a slab that contains your girlfriend's face, and she talks out of it? You can't go out and go to a restaurant or go anywhere. It genuinely would have been better if she just stayed dead, because the more I think about this, the more horrifying it gets. People hate on the sex joke they make about a romantic life, but honestly, that's just alluding to things. It's not explicit, it's fine. But to me, the more I think about Ursula's life, it's awful. So, overall, this episode has a lot going for it. It has some weird or bad decisions that can overwhelm the story, and I do understand that. But, it's sort of a good episode. Oh my word. Did I really just do a full page in one go? Incredible. I can't believe it. It's sort of a good episode. This thing's heavy. God, the things I do for a stupid joke. Anyway, yeah, that brick was much heavier. Oh, man. I know I had to carry it in here, but still. From a sitting position. Ugh.